My presentation today is called A Pursuit of Perspection, Pursuit of Perfection. Say that 5 times fast. A Perspective Application by Haniff Morris. I had a alternative presentation that I want to get done, but it was getting too big. It was way too big and too intricate and had too many moving parts. So I decided to do this one, which is a little bit more short and compact for the hour time frame. I know it's Sunday afternoon and brothers got stuff to do, so I appreciate you all sharing your time with us all. Moving forward, my outline, I just want to let you know that, we actually have an outline. We actually have a course that we're trying to trot. I'm not just freestyling here, just something that we want to get done in a concise and organized fashion. The first thing we're going to talk about is the crux. The crux is basically the core of our presentation today, what we're actually trying to get done and what it actually is the subject and meat of the matter. We get distracted a lot of times by costumes and music and, politics and stuff within mainstream, but we just want to keep the main thing the main thing. The next thing is infinity, looking at the potential of us in relation, us with each other and us with God. Whenever we think that something's big, it's always much more bigger. Progress, we look at how we elevate each other. Masonry itself is supposed to be a progressive science. So whenever we have information, we should be able to move on from different levels from one to the other, moving up continuously to make our scope broader and wider and more applications. Perception, we look at the reflection of us within God's image, and being a reflection of God's image, what is the potential use of that particular image itself? Archetypes, we talk about the plum and how it's set upon a wall, and Amos said this, that, and the third, and how that particular passage means. But we want to look at some of the archetypes that came before us and how we can use their example as our blueprint for our lives. And in conclusion, anytime I give a presentation, I want to make sure that I give you something that you can hold on to, something that you can actually take on tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I just want to be a bunch of words and rituals and abstracts and, space and quasars, but I want to have something that you can actually use productively. With that being said, we'll move on to the next screen, which is the crux. The crux of Freemasonry lies within the sincere labor of reflecting upon its symbols, emblems, lectures, history, laws, rites, rituals, etc. As with any valuable revelation, the truths that lead to knowledge, wisdom, and understanding will remain veiled without appropriate preparation, perspiration, and perspective. So what am I saying? I'm saying that even though that you might have this information in front of you, everybody got the same blue book, but how you use it and how you implement it is a totally different ballgame. So if you're not willing to actually prepare yourself, meaning your mind, your body, and your spirit to receive the information, then it's a moot point. Perspiration means that you're actually going to do the work. You're going to sit down at your kitchen table. You're going to have this reference manual. You're going to have your books. You're going to have your ritual. You're going to have all of these things at your disposal and try to come up with the information in a way that you can actually understand it. And perspective. The final thing is, even though you might have this information, you have to put it in its proper perspectives, because if you don't, then you don't actually have the use of those particular working tools. You can't use a saw to drive in a screw. I mean, you could, but it'd be kind of wrong. So you want to use the tools in the ways that you probably are meant for them to be used for. Going on, it says, however, by the grace of the grand architect of the universe and the assistance of learned brethren, a neophyte receives more light via reception, mastery, and application of the tools placed in his hands. Once again, we talk about actually receiving information that you actually been presented, mastering those particular things. And I want to pause at the mastery part. When you're playing, say, for instance, basketball, the first thing that you probably learn is how to make a layup. You're closest to the basket, and actually it's just 2 points that you can actually guarantee. So you dribble down with your right hand, you make the right-handed layup. And then when you're getting a little frisky, you go down with the left hand, you make the left-hand layup. And then you start to work on those particular skills until you master making a layup. Think of Kyrie Irving. If you guys watch basketball, he's a master of making layups. So he can take his right hand, come under the basket and use some English and go on the left side and use it. But you're actually mastering the particular use of that particular skill. Now, mind you, it's still a layup, but how he actually master it is actually appropriate. So if you compare that to masonry, using the foundational tools that you're presented and using them in a way can be very, very devastating. And of course, application of the tools that was placed in our hands doesn't make sense for us to have all this knowledge if they're available for us to apply those within our daily lives. Moving on, although one brother cannot travel the path for another by sharing insight with those of similar aspirations, rocky terrains can be made smoother and bridges can span chasms. So just like this group, if we're actually going to be able to work together and move together, we have to be able to share each other's knowledge and move on from one hand to the other, because you can't walk the road by yourself. You actually have to go with other people. Infinity. It is widely accepted that humans only utilize 10% of their mental prowess. The remaining 90% of potential still pales in comparison to deity. Students of the ancient mystery systems appreciate the intellectual conception of spirit is only a proportional reflection of an individual's capacity and is not the whole of the spirit itself. So just because me and my failed brain can only interpret small points of the information that we're getting, small points of the spirit that we're getting, doesn't mean that that's all there is. There's still always more out there. We talk about infinity. What's the biggest number? We say it's infinity, but if infinity plus one is bigger than infinity, infinity times infinity is still infinity. Infinity times infinity plus one is still bigger number. So there's always something bigger and better out there. As a Mason becomes more familiar with the abstracts of infinity, infinite time, space, and spirit, the entire fullness thereof remains outside of comprehension without God's intervention to change the condition of one's whole being and thus increase capacity to receive additional light. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that even though you might have the IQ of a genius, you might have a 200 IQ, if there's not a spiritual intervention by God himself to actually inform you of how to use that information, how to produce that information, how to master information, then you're kind of missing the whole entire picture. You need both. You need the square and the compass. Progress. By faith, man climbs a winding staircase, hoping to arrive at progressively higher elevations of vibrations. Therefore, with attempts to dogmatize spiritual principle within the limitations of one's own understanding, one often begins to segregate a universal infinity and relegate any exterior precept as error. So I'm saying that even though that you become, the pastor of your church, you become the bishop of your region, you become whatever it is that you become of, just because you take those higher steps doesn't mean that whatever somebody else does, it makes it wrong. You understand what I'm saying? So if you see a beggar on the street, doesn't mean that the information that you can get from it is wrong, and make sure that you're always right depending on your station. It's always something that you can learn no matter where the information comes from. Freemasonry reminds that however grand one's personal doctrine may seem, it is doubtless not without stain. In fact, a brother learns to focus on the unsullied spiritual fabric that binds mankind together instead of the self-manufactured differences that tear us apart. So what am I saying is that even though that, you might have this affinity towards your particular religion, your particular doctrine, there's always going to be a stain on it. There's always going to be something that you might not find that jives with your particular personality at that particular point. There's always something else that you can learn. There's always progress to be made. Perception versus reflection. Man's image of his creator is limited to personal capacity. So whatever your capacity is to actually ingest the deity, the God himself, is limited to your particular comprehensive grasp. Even though that you might feel that you're all knowing, all seeing, you're not. God is. So without the actual ability to limit your particular perception, then you can't understand the scope of God itself. It goes back to the word infinity again. In dealings with deity, there ought not to be a capitulation to baser diversions. Instead, implement a subdued passion and reflect the image of immutable potency, consciousness, presence, and benevolence. If man is created in a reflected image of God, then one should ever strive to assume such reflection in deed and in truth. We talk about people who join church or mosque or temple or whatever it is, and you see them, and sometimes the connotation is that they're just here to have a building fund, and you've been given this building fund for 10 years and never didn't even change a doorknob in the church yet. So it's always something that you have to realize, that we have to keep this information ever in front of us, by not just by the actual prospect or aspect of it, but the actual doing of the information that we have itself, the application of it. Archetypes. The ritual advances the perspective that God is both present and active. The infinite algorithms that govern the universe are made by a deity despite man's limited circumstance to digest its scope. Once again, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. However, observed from time to time in the midst are plums by which we measure ourselves, draw inspiration, and take additional steps towards a Masonic East. The archetypical exemplars of Asar or Osiris, Buddha, Muhammad, Yeshua or Jesus, and Hiram Abiff himself speaks the potential transcendental development of one's soul and intellect. When we talk about the plum here, we talk about, in Amos, it talks about God putting the plum in front of us so he can actually measure himself. So when we have these exemplars in front of us, we know it's possible for us to live a better and more productive life. Our duty is to develop purposeful and unique faculties in ourselves and encourage those in others that the world's condition may improve by our labors. Indeed, we are to take good men and show them a path that could make them better. Now, you can talk until you're blue in the face, but until somebody actually see you doing and walking the walk, then it's basically a moot point. Coming to the conclusion. In conclusion, the pursuit of perfection's irony lies in, despite its noble aspiration, perfection will never be achieved in this life. We all know that, I don't know about y'all, but I grew up on the East Coast, and we had Soul Train that came on at noon, from noon to 1, and then from 1 to 3, we had Kung Fu Theater. They always had like some type of Kung Fu movie. And the best part of the Kung Fu movies for me was not the beginning where the old master get beat up, or at the end when the new young, Kung Fu master beats up the villain. It was always a part of the actual mastery of the skill. He works on, the 36 chambers, 35 chambers, and developed his own 36 chambers. It's always about him actually producing the skill that needed to actually defeat the evil villain itself. So it was always something that I always looked at. So number one, which looking at application, something that you can actually use in your life. More light in this life cannot be revealed by intellect alone. A spiritual component is necessary for the fullness thereof to be realized. Like I said, you need the square and the compass, the square representing the physical and the compass representing the spiritual. The two of them combined actually make perfection. So in order for us to actually get to that particular point, you need both sides of the coin. Number two, it is vitally important to recognize, respect, and cherish the spiritual commonality in all things. We are definitely the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. So it doesn't matter what your race, creed, religion, whatever it is, we're still bound by brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God, giving us the ties that bind. And number three, peace and blessings may be actuated when one realizes the potential of doing so, as many dwelling spiritual archetypes have already illustrated. So it's not like it can't be done. It's been done time after time and time again. It is our job to actually look at the life that we live and live a more clean and perfect life, no matter what the obstacles are. So herein lies my conclusion, and I thank you for my time. I will stop the sharing here and pause for your questions, concerns, and suggestions.
I thought that was a great presentation, and you made it concise. That was pretty cool. But I got from it that you can have all the knowledge in the world, but without that spiritual connection, it's moot. That was well put. I love it, actually.
Thank you. Yeah. So when I was thinking about the point of actually doing the research, I mean, you can have a bunch of books here. You could have Mackey's encyclopedia and read it front to back. But if you don't get on your knees and ask God to reveal the actual revelation to you and how you're actually supposed to use information, like once again, it's a moot point. Doesn't make any sense. You have to have the combination and balance, equilibrium, if I might say, in order for you to actually have that information going hand in hand.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Brother Morris, thank you for that information. I think I definitely want to echo what was said. And I think it's hitting me a lot lately of you can have the ritual memorized back and forth. You can have these other, sources memorized back and forth. But if you don't add, and I think maybe rely on that spiritual aspect, in that holy scripture that you read and depend on, it is just kind of your meandering around. And I don't know what it is for me as of late. And I know Brother Pugh, PM Pugh, Companion Pugh, Grand Lecturer Pugh,
This brother Pew.
can from our conversations kind of echo that for me. I know I bother him plenty of times with some of these questions, and I swear one conversation, one open-ended question leads into an hour conversation. So I appreciate that. That's one I'm hitting on lately. And two, I gotta thank you. I think I grew up south side of Chicago. We didn't have it that I'm familiar with. It wasn't on Saturdays, but we had Samurai Sundays on Channel 66. Which I appreciate you very much for referencing Gordon Liu and the 36th Chamber. So yeah, I watched that a couple weeks ago. Samurai Sunday was my thing. But no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good. There was one of these things that Right Worshipful Brother Antonio Terry, when I was coming through, he was my dean of instruction, and he kind of broke it down and make it simple for me. You have the square and the compass, but what is it sitting on? It's sitting on the volume of sacred law. The volume of sacred law is the foundation for which everything else actually sits on top of. So if we think of that in that particular mind frame, it kind of brings it home for you. It makes it easier for you to understand and digest.
Appreciate it. And lastly, if I may, I apologize. I just want to throw this out there. I appreciate how you said we show men how to make better men. It's not, you've heard it so many times, we make men better men, but how? I can just hand you some books. I could, hand my wife some books, but I'm not. But I can hand anybody some books and they're not going to know what to do and how to do it. So you also do have to show them. So thank you for that also.
Not a problem. Yeah, we say we make good men better, but in order for that to happen, we actually show them. It's like, once again, I failed Sunday school 5 million times, but I know in there it says that I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one. So basically what you're saying, I'd rather see you walk the path than actually talk about walking it. So. Yeah.
And whoever wants to go next, just unmute yourself.
Oh, so this is Brother Leonard, Mount Hebron Lodge number 29. Would you agree, or would it be safe to say, anybody could answer this, that what you just said literally correlates with actions speak louder than words?
Yeah. Keep it concise. Yes.
Yeah.
Action do speak louder than words, because, I think another way to say it is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So to actually see it done, then actually talk about doing this one thing. So, coach is coach, but it's the players who actually play.
Anybody else?
Brother Julian Madison, Keystone Lodge number 15. PM, thank you for the lecture. I appreciate the conciseness of it, even though it has great depth. It really makes me think of the different ways that I've seen you talk about the square and compass and what it represents as far as internally, or what it should represent within man. And every time you talk about it in a different way, it resonates with me in a different way. Because, I've been on this health kick lately and all of these different things. And it's like, no matter how strong you may feel or how good you are in an earthly way, you still need to have a sense of spirituality and a connection to God in whatever form that may be to really complete you. So I definitely appreciate the lecture. Like I said, it was great.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, past master. Appreciate it once again, man. Always dropping some jewels. And just to echo Brother Madison, it was great because I talked to him a lot about going down this spiritual path and actually using these tools has forced me to get back in my Bible, create this connection. And so that spiritual connection is not only going with the deity, but also with nature itself. So I have something for you later on this week, PM, that I dive down. But as always, it's a great lecture.
Hey, Brother Taylor, which lodge are you from again, sir?
The Keystone Lodge number 15.
All right, just checking for those who may not know. Okay, all right. Good to see you, my brother.
Brother Pugh.
Yes, sir. Right, Worship.
Hey, I mean that's like 3 in a row. I said I can't just be on here and not speak. So I am Brother Antonio Terry. I'm a proud member of Keystone Lodge number 15. I just want to make sure I said that too. But I really enjoyed the portion that I did get on a couple minutes late. I was running late from church, but I did get on and I can appreciate it right away. Jumped in my mind. He was talking. Someone just mentioned that, hey, faith without works is dead. So all of this stuff we talk about, we don't put them into action. I mean, it's a mute point, or we're really just spinning our wheels. I can appreciate the presentation. Just wanted to make sure I told the presenter, all excellent. Keep up the good work, and looking forward to you getting on the schedule again. To keep dropping those jewels and just opening everyone's eyes to how we should be looking at this thing of masonry. I think that's the part that gets lost within the sauce of fundraisers, collecting dues, and pageantry of walking in. At the end of the day, making that good man better. How in the world are we doing that, and are we actually doing it? So, just my little 1 cent. I don't got two today, so I got 1 cent. And I appreciate the format also, the platform.
Thank you, Right Worship. Thank you for being a part of it, the platform. All right. Anybody else? Comments, questions? Art, got anything you want to share with us today? I see you snuck in the digital building. Go ahead, Pass. You unmuted now. Art, were you gonna say something?
Okay, yes, I would like to say a little something.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to all of the brothers on here that are doing like I'm trying to do, which is seek further knowledge. I'm feeling a little under the weather, but I was able to get on. I missed the lecture, which I'm sure was fantastic, as all of them are. So therefore, I can't really comment about that. But since it seemed like you were asking for some, basic comments, I just want to say one thing. This being Black History Month, and I hope I'm not taking this in the wrong direction because this is not pertaining directly to Masonry, but it is indirectly. Recently, it's been said that certain people want to get rid of Black History Month, and they're sort of attacking, you all know who I'm talking about, attacking African Americans generally. I just want to say, brethren, that we don't need anybody to give us permission to talk about our great heritage. We're some great people, Masonically and otherwise. We're fantastic people, and we need to remind each other of that from time to time. I'm working on a little something I want to distribute it sort of discusses the greatness of African Americans and where this world would be without us. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with that lecture that was given, which I'm sure I'll get a copy of later. But I just want to say to the brethren out there, we need to just keep on passing it around to each other, Black people, white people, everybody. We are fantastic people. We're a type of people or persons that God has given specific knowledge to. Sometimes we forget that, but every now and then you see it, but you don't recognize it. And I guess basically my conversation right now is talking about the great contributions that African Americans have made to the world. I mean, things that we take for granted now would not have been here if it wasn't for us, y'all. I mean, I can't even think of everything to say right now, but we take it for granted. I mean, peanut butter, cotton, clothing, railroad crossings. I mean, there's so many things that out of necessity we invented. And I would just like to focus on that today and leave you all with that. Uh, I'm sorry I haven't been here. Brother Pew, you know this group is my heart. Okay, I don't like to say a whole lot, but I'm steadily trying to listen and learn, and pretty much that's all I have to say right now. I love you, brothers. Uh, Keep on doing that good work and spread around us, because we're getting neglected now, especially by this present administration. We're getting neglected. We're getting erased. We don't even exist if they have their way. But we can stop that. Let's make sure that's in our conversation every day, at work, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, extol the virtues of the African American in his contribution to the world. Thanks a lot. I'm out.
Thank you, Past Master Harper. You know, I don't ever like to be in the building with you, physical or virtual, and not get some words for you from you. You know, Past Master Morris did even very briefly reference our history and contribution when he mentioned, you know, Asur or Osiris, in terms of that the contribution of African people from the Nile Valley to the world's, you know, major religions, you know, being, you know, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, all, you know, Judaism and Christianity coming, excuse me, Islam and Christianity coming out of the stem of Judaism, or the Abrahamic religions, if you will. And if you do your research and read certain things, you will see that, you know, that came out of the Nile Valley originally. So, yeah, we have definitely a lot of greatness that we have contributed then and now. I mean, this is Black history as far as I'm concerned. Just meeting with you brothers now, and the comment was made about making good men better. How do we do that? I think this is how we're doing it right now. We're getting together and we're actually sharing knowledge and information with each other as men, Black men, and specifically Masons, and we're literally making each other better. I know I was made better today just from being here with you guys. So, you know, this is part of how we do it. That said, anybody else got any comments or questions, anything on the presentation today?
Yes, past Master Pew. This is Abdul Levy from
Yes,
Monarch
sir.
Lodge number 99. All right, and I want to thank you for actually holding this lecture. Past, I think it was a master class and an extra chapter on what we should be doing in Mason. I love the fact how you brought it back to Amos and how you added how the plumb line kind of connects all that together, and that we should be walking upright like that on a regular basis and reminding ourselves of that. I absolutely am going to use the fact that the square and compass, these Masonic things that we do on a daily basis, are nothing without the Bible being the foundation. So I would definitely be using that and preaching that to other brothers. So thank you again. I appreciate it and loved every part of this class today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
brother.
So this is Brother Leonard from Hebron Lodge number 29. Just to piggyback off what my cable was just saying, past Master Haniff Morris, I want to say, you gave me a new perspective to think about when it comes to the square and compass. You know, like you said, we coming from the Grand Junior Warden, White Brother, or Brother Terry, can't think of the actual title, forgive me. But to have the square and the compass on top of the Bible, which was basically the manual for life. You know, I never really thought about it in that way. But looking at the square and compass and thinking about it, it just gave me something new to think about. So I definitely appreciate it. I salute you for it.
Thank you, Brother Williams. Anybody else? Or I kind of
Master Pugh, this is brother Roach.
yes, sir.
I want to thank you for including me on uh, on this grouping, as well as I want to say that I got a lot out of the lecture. So thank you so much, Past Master Morris. That was a great lecture. Great. You gave me some things to think about. I always, and when attending these, I always pull some things, knowledgeable things out of these lectures. So to give and things to consider. We always are learning at all times. So um, thank you so much, Past Master Morris. Great lecture.
Thank you.
This past Master Winesberry of Mount Hebron 29. I just want to say, man, this group has been titled the correct things, man. Let the bees keep working. And if the bees keep working, it does nothing but build. So continue to build, man. And past Master Pew, I really appreciate the ad, man. So you brothers, man, continue to keep putting yourselves together, man, and being positive. And another thing is when we talk about the square and compasses, it's the compasses is something that it starts at one point and can be moved and stretched to different points. That's why it's compasses. So we got to look at it as um, where are we going with this? It's not a thing that we can just look at as I lost my train of thought with it right there. But brothers,
Take
keep
your
on
time,
keep on
Pass.
growing. Keep on growing.
Thank you, Pass Master Winesberry. Right on point.
Excuse me, something just hit me when Brother Harper again. Although I did miss that lecture, I've heard it mentioned a couple times about the fact that the compass and square sits on top of the Bible. Uh, this sort of touches on the universality of Masonry, the whole global understanding of Masonry, because in other countries, that square and compass might not sit on top of the Bible. It might sit on top of the Quran. Uh, Jewish brothers have their book, either the Torah or some other book that I may not be familiar with, and that square and compass sits on top of that. In the shrine, we use both books, Quran and the Bible. And what am I saying? Is that we're nothing without God. Without that concept of God, that rule and guide, as we call it, that holiness from above, we pay homage to that superior being because we recognize everywhere in the world that without God, no one would be anything. We're less than a speck of dust in the eyes of God, even though we don't need to try to understand him because we never will. We do need to make sure we understand that everything here, everything is God. And a lot of times people don't understand that when you say everything, and I don't want to get too deep on this, but you're talking about good and bad. What we look at as being maybe bad, hey, back up. That's God. It may not be good for you at that particular time, but that's God. When you look at the trees, that's God. That's all a testimony to God. And it doesn't make a difference if the tree is dead or alive. That's still God, good and bad. And there's a quote in the Bible. I wish I was prepared to say what it is, but it references the fact that everything is God. What you consider good and what you consider bad. I just thought I'd throw it out there to you brothers, because I thought about it. Because yes, the Bible is the foundation, and the compass and square sits on top of it. That's here in this country. Now, over in some of the other jurisdictions, they have a lot of people that are Jewish. We don't. Most of the people in Prince Hall are African Americans, but we've got a lot of Muslims. We've got a lot of people that may uh, recognize God from from a different perspective, but we should always recognize that God is. And I'm not even going to say another word after that. I'm going to leave it right there. God is. Thought I'd throw another 2 cents worth in there. Pardon me if I got off the main subject. I'm sorry.
No, it's just right. You right on point, Past Master Harper. So you hit on so many things. The one thing I do want to say is we may not have a lot of Ashkenazic Jewish members in Prince Hall, and definitely not in Prince Hall, Grand Lodge, Illinois. I'm not saying there are any, but that I know of. But we definitely have African American members who are Black Hebrew Israelite or who just follow traditional Judaism. I see Brother Neil taking his head. So, we do have Black African of African descent members in Prince Hall who follow Judaism. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The other thing you touched on when or in my opinion, you touched on, or what I was reminded of when you start talking about God is in everything, is that first principle of Hermeticism. All is mind, or God is mental and all is mind, and that God permeates through everything on this physical plane, and that is a concept that I wrestle with sometimes, and it's tough because it's like, okay, if all is God, if all is mind, if all is the mind of God, well, what about the things that I would consider to be bad? Because according to that philosophy and concept from Hermeticism, that's still a manifestation of the great I am of the all. So, it's at least for me and my feeble brain, as past Master Morris talked about that 10%. I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm using 5%. I struggle with some of these concepts and wrestle with it, but it's definitely something to consider and think about. Anybody else, any other comments or questions for the presenter, past Master Morris, before I close out with some of the housekeeping stuff?
This is Brother Parson Celestial 80.
Yes, sir.
You just touched on something, and I think I might have just recently came across exactly what you said as it relates to Hermeticism, but something in regards to duality, and for there has to be a good and an evil, and there has to be a physical plane as much as the spiritual plane, that represented by the square and the compass, right? And then I believe there's a philosopher, I believe it was Kant, that talked about um, three different subjects, but the first two were the good and the bad, or duality, and how it exists. And the third purpose for us is to reckon with ourselves, deal with ourselves on a spiritual level, and then as we grow, we make our communities not just brothers, turning good brothers into better brothers, because some brothers just are at their peak. But as a community, as a whole, once we've achieved a certain level for ourselves, to spread that amongst our community and build a better human race. So I think that is something about the duality of purpose and what you just talked about.
Wow.
Brother Taylor.
Very well said, brother. Brother Parks.
Brother
Go
Taylor.
ahead, Brother Taylor. Yes, sir.
Keystone again. Hey, that's just perfect because it takes us back to our foundation, which is having those furniture of the lodge. And everything that we just talked about in that duality just represents our mosaic pavement, right? Understanding that checkerboard and what's our good and our evil. So, I mean, you can't have one without the other. And so now you guys will have me down the rabbit hole of understanding my furniture even more. So I appreciate you, brothers.
Hey, Worship Master O'Neill, aren't you working on some type of presentation or something with Furniture of the Lodge, or did we just talk about that in the past? Because even if we just talked about it, I just kind of threw you a softball there.
Yeah, we did talk about that in the past. I'm a little ways out on that one because I got some
Okay.
other things in the works.
Okay. All right. But it is in the pipeline, right?
Yeah, it's in the pipeline.
Okay.
On
All right.
furniture
All right.
lines,
Cool.
yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay. All right. All right.
But I did want to say one thing because we were talking about memorizing the Bible, but without God, it's nothing. But that goes with the ritual too. We can memorize everything in a ritual, but if we don't have that basis of a deity or spiritual backing, it's nothing. You just reciting words.
Yeah. Facts. And a parrot mason, as they as the term is often used. All righty. Well, we're about at the 45-minute mark. So past Master Morris, uh, uh, first of all, as always, outstanding presentation. And I know I always make the comment about your graphics because I just pay homage to your graphic skills. I'm nowhere near that. I'm a Padawan and you're like a Jedi, but that's okay because even a Padawan will one day be a Jedi. So there's hope. There's hope for all of us. But outstanding presentation as always. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm so glad I started recording these because that was way too much for me to digest in one helping. So I got to go back and watch it again. I did make some basic notes. And the one thing that you talked about with the kung fu movies that reminded me of the hero's journey, which is something that I may do a lecture on, or maybe somebody else may pick it up, and how that plays. And so part of that hero's journey is the training of the main protagonist, i.e., Luke Skywalker. You know, he has to go with Obi-Wan and train to become a Jedi, and then face the antagonist, Darth Vader, at the end. And so, how does that hero's journey play out in Masonry within our different allegories? Is, I think, a avenue for exploration. So, even though you were talking about Kung Fu, as always, you brought something else out, my mind. And as a martial artist, yeah, you're right. It is in the training and honing the skills and not all that other stuff. So it was on point. And then you mentioned something that I kind of touched on yesterday in my lecture for the Royal Arch, where you said, more light can't come by intellect alone. And yesterday I talked about, each degree and how inner apprentice is, the representing the physical aspect of your being, fellowcraft, the mental, and how you have to have the mental before you go to the spiritual, because in Masonry, we teach that there is some volume of sacred law, right? Whether it's the Holy Bible, Holy Quran, Torah, and so that we should study as the rule and guide our faith. But you have to know how to read in order to be able to read it. So you have to have a certain mental development, even to be able to read the Word of God, so that your spiritual can develop. But then, at what point do you go from that fellowcraft, like I'm learning, tipping over into the Master Mason, where what you're reading and learning transition over into the spiritual realm? Where does that, break happen or development happen, or that doorway? So just very interesting. And I thought, man, that kind of hit right on what I was discussing yesterday. So
Yeah, there's
thanks
a
for that,
reason.
man.
There's a reason why grammar, rhetoric, and logic are there at the beginning. There's a reason why it's there, because if you don't have those particular three first, liberal arts and sciences, then you can't get to the fancy ones like geometry and mathematics. You have to be able to understand and capitulate to the comprehension that you're supposed to be receiving before you can get to the other stuff. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could not have said it better. Absolutely. So once again, thank you, sir, for another fantastic lecture. And like your Keystone brother, right, worshipful brother Antonio Terry, I look forward to your next installment here with Beehive. All right, brother. So just wanted to take care of some housekeeping business. The first is, as we're, I think, in our third year of this, I don't remember exactly when we started, but just wanted to put out some reminders for the newer members that, this Masonic study group, which I, put together, started, however you want to, words you want to use, was put together for the purpose of getting together with other, like-minded brothers that were kind of truly on the path for Masonic knowledge. And so, as I've said to most of the people that the invitation was extended to, is it's not a secret, but it's not something I'm advertising. Okay. And simply put, everything is not for everybody. That's the reason. It's not to be in any type of secretive aspect or elitist. It's just, you know, everyone doesn't have the same goals and focus. Again, referencing past Master Morris, one of his previous lectures, like, why are you here? People come to Masonry for various reasons. You have brothers, nothing wrong with it. They come just to socialize and be around some other good men. Great. That's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. It's not a negative thing. You have others that want to do community service, and that's why they join. And that's really, hey, I just go for the community service. Great. Um, and that's fine. But then you have that smaller group that is maybe here for all those other reasons or benefit from them, but they recognize what Freemasonry is. And as Brother Past Master Stephen Gates from Welcome Star, who wasn't able to make it with us today, I'm going to use his term of Masonry as a spiritual guild. When you get to the crux of it, I like that term because I think it really captures, like, those of us who are really on this path, we're on that path for that spiritual development. And so, that being said, that's why I don't advertise to be, hey, I got this thing, everybody come, because it's not something that everybody is going to benefit from or gel with. For those who are interested, again, talking about Hermeticism, right? Everything vibrates. Everything is vibrating right now at a different frequency. And so, we want, if you guys know of brothers that's on same frequency, meaning, hey, they're trying to learn, they're serious about Masonry, whatever. Yeah, by all means, extend them an invitation. But that's why it's not something that I just publicly advertise for that reason. So anyway, just wanted to reinforce that. You don't have to be on the level of Antonio Terry or Haniff Morris to be a part of Beehive. You can just say, hey, I want to learn more. Great. And then when you get to the point you're ready to present something, by all means, present it. The other aspect of the Beehive, when I started, and the kind of founding members, if you will, and I use that term loosely, because I don't want to get too organizational, but one of the agreements was too is that, just like in the Beehive, everybody works. All the worker bees have to work. And if you don't work, they give you the boot. So everybody in the Beehive at some point is expected to contribute back to the hive with some knowledge, and again, please don't be intimidated if you can't do it as well as Past Master Morris with his graphic, because I can't. You can just have your notebook and just talk off certain points. Great. Okay. All right, Bose. Thank you, my brother. Great. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but at some point down the road, we look for every member to contribute, something to the to the hive, so to speak. That being said, the next 3 months, we should just call this the Keystone Masonic Beehive Masonic Study Group. I think I'm just gonna rename it that. Because so we had Past Master Haniff for us this month. March is Brother Julian Madison, and then like what they put the heaviest hitter at the end of the batting roster, right, to knock them in home, right, with the Grand Slam. The Grand Slam is going to be right words for Brother Antonio Terry in April. So the next 3 months are all Keystone, which, hey, I'm all for that because, hey, Keystone is Keystone, man. That's why I roll with them guys. I stay close to them because they got all the knowledge. So, hey, it is what it is. After that, in May is going to be Worship Master Maurice Palmer in May. And then June is Worship Master Alan O'Neill out of Plumline. And then we'll take a break for July and August because it's summer and everybody's doing picnics and moving around and unification. And we'll pick back up in September with Brad Bozeman, and then Worship Master Leonard Williams in October. I'm on for November, and December at this point is to be determined. So if anybody wants to get in there, let me know, and we'll get you on for December. I have some Royal specific stuff that I want to roll out. Okay, Brother Taylor from Keystone, you're around us out in December. Gotcha, I see you. that I want to roll out. So I may try to do an extra day 1 month, just rollouts only for those who are able to attend. Because as I'm the grand lecturer of Royal Arch right now, my mind is usually in the Royal Arch degrees, and so I got some Royal Arch specific stuff dealing with the Kabbalah and other stuff that I want to roll out. So I may slip in an extra session just for that for those who are companions and who want to attend. All righty, brothers. That being said, we're about right at the hour mark. If try to keep it to an hour. Sometime we go over if the discussion is very well. It's not gonna have to end right at an hour, but I try to value everyone's time with that 24-inch gauge. So that being said, and go ahead and close out.